Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another weather forecast for the entire United States. And as you can see, we do have a little bit of a low pressure system out over here, and that is bringing up some moisture from the south. And we're already starting to see some weather alerts, some special weather statements across this area in and around the Dallas region. Eventually, most of these storms are going to push down to the south and east, causing some more severe weather. And then after this storm kind of moves out of our hair, we're going to have another one try to happen behind it. So we're going to be talking about that. In terms of snow chances, not really too much happening up here after that last one kind of cleared out. So we're not going to be talking about snow too much today. Been hearing a lot of murmurs about people obsessing over January, but I can promise you all those forecasts are going to change as we get closer, so I wouldn't worry about January too much. Again, forecasting past a week or so is pretty much impossible, but I will admit sometimes it is fun to speculate. Over on the West Coast, we do have the continuation here of the atmospheric river continuing to bring storm after storm over here. We'll be talking about that a little bit more in detail as well, but I think the main story that we're going to be talking about here is going to be the severe weather in the Central Plains going into the southeast. So let's go ahead and break that down. All right, starting off with the HRRR here, you can see that there are going to be some showers and thunderstorms across the region here from Texas going into Oklahoma and Arkansas. And as we go into the future, that's eventually going to push down to the south and east as we get into 3, 4 p.m. We'll be talking about areas like Killeen getting some thunderstorms, maybe some severe weather over there. And that's going to continue to push down to the south and east towards the Shreveport area, just to the east of Austin, and then going down into Houston. We're looking at our storm food at this time at around 7 p.m. There's still plenty of storm food for these storms, so severe weather is still going to be possible as we go into 7 p.m. Looking at our 500 millibar winds, kind of the winds that are up there with the plains, you can see they are pretty weak here. Typically, when you are talking about tornadoes, you're going to see some reds, some greens, some yellows at least, but we're in the grays and blues, so we're definitely pretty weak out there. Looking at our 850 millibar winds at around 7 p.m., there is going to be a little bit of something here. And as I push this forward, it kind of increases there just to the south of Shreveport, so we do have to watch out for maybe, some tornado chances, even as far back as down to here. Very low tornado chances, I would say almost 0%, but especially down here south of Shreveport, if we do get some storms fire in that area, which it doesn't seem like it's happening, we do have some rain there. The main frontal boundary is kind of crashing to the south ahead of that. So although we'll have some spin back in here, it's just not going to be associated where some of our stronger storms are as we move into around 11 p.m. So not the worst environment by any means, kind of a weak environment, but definitely could get some damaging winds and also some severe weather. As I push this forward into Houston, you can see a big old line of storms kind of pushes down to the south and east and then ejects into the Gulf of Mexico as we go into the early morning hours of Christmas morning. In terms of severe weather that's about to get started over here near Waco and College Station, that is definitely possible. We got a little bit of a 2 out of 5 for severe weather. That's going to be for Waco, Mexia, Palestine, Jacksonville, Tyler, Nacogdoches or Natchitoches, I forget which one that is, Lufkin, College Station, parts of Round Rock, and Austin, Texas as well. And around that, we have a marginal risk. That's going to be for San Antonio, Victoria, Houston, Galveston, Beaumont, and parts of Dallas. But by the time you guys probably see this forecast, Dallas and most of the kind of region to the south of Dallas is going to be out of this risk. In terms of tornado chances, as you can see, it's very low when we have weak shear, weak spin. Typically don't see tornadoes on these days, but definitely can't rule out the chance for some damaging winds. And why we have a slight risk is because of the hail. This is going to be a hail-driven risk. Sometimes when you have just enough of those upper level winds, but really weak lower level winds, it can promote some shear values that are low enough to kind of sustain hail in the updrafts for a little bit longer, making them a little bit bigger. So over here near Waco and College Station and Tyler, definitely, and areas in between, definitely need to be watching out for the threat for quarter-sized hail and above as these storms sink down to the south and east. Now going a little bit further into the future here, after the storms kind of eject out into the Gulf of Mexico, eventually what we're going to start to see as we come over to our surface-based cape, our storm food, we're going to see that atmosphere try to recover here as we go into the 26th at around 6 p.m. A little bit weak on the storm food side, not a whole lot of values up over 1,000 joules per kilogram, but there is a decent amount of instability down there, enough if we have enough shear in the area to cause enough buoyancy to potentially cause some severe weather and also the chances for some tornadoes. But again, it's going to be on the lower side, at least going into 6 p.m. It might get a little bit worse later because the shear is forecasted to get a little bit stronger. Same with the instability as well. So definitely going to be watching out anywhere from Houston all the way up near Shreveport, again, south south and east of Oklahoma City. You can see over here, we're mainly going to be talking about a line of storms developing as that instability builds. We're going to have a little bit of forcing caused by the lower level winds. That brings up some moisture, convects it, moisturizes, drops as rain, thunderstorms, and also the potential for some damaging winds here. Mainly extending all the way up into Oklahoma City with this main line here, but we're going to be watching out for some severe weather risks with some of these storms to the south and east. This is around 5 p.m. and then eventually as we get into 6 p.m. here, that's going to be tracking off to the north and east. But this is unfortunately the end of where our higher resolution models go. So we're going to have to switch over to a little bit lower resolution, but that'll still kind of give us a good guidance on what's going to happen. Going over to the NAM 12K, you can see thunderstorms all the way from just to the east of Austin, all the way up into Arkansas as we get to around 6 p.m. 9 p.m., we're expecting that threat to move kind of into the Shreveport area just to the west of Little Rock, eventually pushing into Little Rock, Pine Bluff, just to the south of Shreveport, and also extending all the way down into Houston. We could have some thunderstorms or maybe even just heavier rain happening up here, all the way up as far north as Missouri as this storm pushes off to the east. And then eventually we start to run out of that instability as we go into the 27th, and we kind of watch to see if we're going to get some more instability after that. But in terms of the 26th here, we do have a slight risk already out there. Again, we're going to have a little bit more shear this day, a little bit more spin in the atmosphere, and also, some moisture and instability, but it's still kind of uncertain whether or not it's going to be enough to really sustain a widespread event here. But we'll see as we get a little bit closer. I really want to wait until we're about 2 days within range of this, and we're pretty close. Hopefully soon we can get that HRRR in the range of some of these storms. But as you can see, we do have a slight risk out there for College Station, Tyler, Shreveport, Natchitoches, Lufkin, Palestine, Jacksonville, Mexico, and Waco. Again, marginal risk over here near Dallas, McKinney, Killeen, Austin, Galveston. Moving to the east towards Monroe, Pine Bluff. These are going to be overnight storms on the eastern side of this, a little bit earlier on the western side. Not too dissimilar of what's going to happen from today is going to happen on day 3, but with maybe a little bit of a higher tornado risk since we have more of that spin. Can't really look at the tornado, wind, and hail risk that comes in tomorrow, so we'll be giving you guys another update quickly tomorrow after the main Christmas festivities, but I want to make sure that you guys are in the know. After the 27th, as we go into the nighttime hours, you can see that Cape kind of falls apart there, but then eventually we get another surge of some instability, potentially on the 28th at 3 p.m. And about instability all the way from Houston all the way up into southern Missouri. Looking at our lower level winds, there's definitely an overlap here, kind of in northern Louisiana going into parts of Little Rock as well. Upper level winds are kind of weak and they're kind of removed from this area though, so it might be a little bit subtle forcing, but there still could be some severe weather and maybe even a slight risk of severe weather if we can get those storms to mature and get going. So let's kind of see if that happens, at least on the GFS. This is a lower resolution model, so it's not going to really show us too much detail. And yeah, it does seem we do start to get some storms convecting as we go into 9 p.m. here. A line of thunderstorms from Nashville down into Jacksonville, a little bit to the east of where that main pocket of moisture. I'm wondering if we still have instability, at least, yeah. Looks like by the time the GFS convects the storms, it's out in front of our main axis of instability, and also the instability is lower. So some question marks here on whether or not this is going to be mistimed. This will definitely be solved though, or as close to as solved as you can get as we get those higher resolution models and we see exactly when those storms convect in the first place. If they, start to initiate a little bit earlier as we are in Arkansas with all of that instability, we might have a chance for a little bit more serious severe weather. But as of right now, definitely some marginal risks for severe weather with this line of thunderstorms as it moves off to the east, but that instability is going to keep it a little bit on the weaker side. Then eventually we're going to see this thing move off to the east, still struggling with instability all the way to the east coast. Going to still be some chances for some thunderstorms, but severe weather should be relatively rare as that moves off to the east towards the east coast. Mainly just a rain and a couple instances of some thunderstorms as it does that. Kind of zooming out here to see if we got any snow associated with any of these storms. Let's see. First round, mainly just rain, maybe a little bit of mixed precip there in Wisconsin and parts of Michigan, but I'm not really seeing too much there. Then another little batch of rain coming up into Wisconsin, Michigan, the Ohio Valley. Really no snow there at all. Yeah, just mainly rain. Pretty much all the way from pretty much the entire eastern United States is going to be getting some rain as we go into the future. And then our next potential snowstorm that we have to watch out for is going to be on the 30th to the 31st. Here could bring some snow up here. If some things changes, maybe we get a little bit of a stronger system with a little bit more cooler air. We could see that snow line maybe dip down a little bit further to the south, but we're pretty much in La La Land or Fantasy Land or Dreamland when it comes to these types of storms in a model run this far out. So again, we really can't deduce any information this far out, especially when it comes to snow, because the models are really inaccurate. And let me kind of break that down for you guys on why that is. I got a little blank sheet here, and let's say we have a couple of targets. So we got a target here. Let's say this is at 100 meters. We got a target here. Let's say this is at around 500 meters. And then we've got a target out here, and let's say this is about at 1,000 meters. In order for a model to kind of get the forecast right all the way out 7 days into the future and beyond that, it would have and we're talking about like 100%, right? All right. It would have to hit every single target bullseye from each distance, right? Now let's say the model gets the misses the target by just a couple of inches on the first shot. As it goes out to 500 meters, it's going to miss by even more. And then as it goes out to 1,000 meters, it's going to miss by even more. A small mistake early on can end up as a complete bullcrap mistake or a scenario further out. And this is why it is not really smart to trust models as you go well out into the future, because if that model makes a subtle mistake, which they always do, remember, we have some events that are hard to forecast even 1 to 2 days out, especially with snow. So you're talking 7 days to a month out, and you're relying on this thing hitting a bullseye everywhere along the line. It's just impossible. It's just impossible because weather is hard. It's chaos. Regardless, through the 31st, this is what we're talking about for some snow. Again, this right here is super conditional. Have no idea whether or not that's going to happen. If you remove that out of the equation, which we can simply do by going back a little bit further in time, this is pretty much what it's going to look like through the 29th. Again, a lot of rain, maybe a couple instances of mixed precip, but for the most part, we're going to be getting a big thaw out over here on the eastern side of the United States. Switching back to the western United States, you guys are completely covered in rain and snow and wind right now out of this first little bit of the atmospheric river moves through. That's going to continue to push all the way through Nevada, Idaho, eventually making it into parts of Arizona and Colorado, bringing some snow to the Rockies. And then we're going to have another system come back a little bit further up to the north towards Seattle and Portland, bringing some more snow to the mountains and more rain and wind to the coast. And then another kind of piece of energy comes in behind that as well. And that's going to really push that snow further east into Nevada again, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, trying to make it up into parts of Montana, also back down into Arizona as well. You see just to the north of Phoenix, we can actually see some snow there. Utah going into Colorado after that. And then eventually we're going to have yet another storm system coming, bringing in even more rain, more snow, and then eventually another one. So it's just storm after storm after storm. And you know what? It's not going to probably stop until we get until around the 30th. So that's still there. It still looks like we might have a break coming in terms of this onslaught of rain and wind and snow for the higher elevations. But man, over the next couple of days, it is continuing to look pretty active. Looking at the snowfall, I mean, we're talking about feet of snow anywhere in these reds and pinker colors going up into those blue. Same over here in parts of Oregon going into southern Idaho and northern Idaho, also in some of the mountains here of Utah and Wyoming. A little bit more snow over here near Colorado, mainly in the higher elevations as well. Looking at the rainfall amount potentials as we go further into the future, all the way through the 30th, you can see kind of our bullseye is still up here. I mean, look at all of this rain. This is widespread 4 to 5 inches with some potential for a foot of rain there just to the north of Eureka. Depending on how fast that falls, we might see some pretty dangerous flooding risks out there. Also, we have a decent little bullseye over here, about 1 to 2, maybe even getting up into 3, 4, 5 inches of rain, especially here in Arkansas and parts of Texas, and maybe a dusting to an inch of rain over here going into the Ohio Valley and parts of the Great Lakes there. Still really dry here in the northern plains all the way down into the southern plains as well. And in terms of the temperatures, not a whole lot has changed on our future forecast. We're still talking about a big old warm up here in the southeast, moving up into the Ozarks in the Ohio Valley, slowly creeping up over the next couple of days, but it's really as we get into the 27th and then also the 28th when we see kind of our most widespread warm, all the way from the southern plains up into central plains, into the Ozarks, and then pushing up into the Great Lakes and the East Coast, going down in the southeast in Florida here. Widespread area, 50-degree temperatures, a little bit warmer there by the southern coast. It's going to be on the 28th. And then as I push this forward, that low pressure system that's going to be bringing those chances for severe weather is going to bring a little bit more heat a little bit further to the east for areas like Pennsylvania and New York. A lot more heat up here in the southern and central plains where we're getting up into the 50s, almost as far north as North Dakota. And then as we push this further in time, as we go into the 30th, that heat continues, and then keeps on continuing until we get a little bit more cooler air, potentially starting off in January. A bit of a low pressure system down here. Might have to watch out for some severe weather with that eventually, and then we get into some cooler temperatures. But I just want to see if we have any big intrusions. Yeah, unfortunately, that's too far out to really tell anything. I just wanted to see if there was going to be any pattern change whatsoever. It does kind of seem like, still looking generally cooler as we get into January. But again, I just want to let you guys know that stuff can change a lot. So don't really know what's going to happen there. It's definitely some signals are trying to point out a little bit cooler of a January. We'll see. We'll see it when it happens. But all right, everybody, thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate it. You guys have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.